This is your world news broadcast. First, the headlines. Algeria backs Niger's big infrastructure push. Niamey cheers on attracts African lead, and both meet on the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline. More Israeli occupation strikes on Lebanon kill dozens, wound hundreds. Gaza-style crimes now in the south. Beirut says impunity lets it happen again. And later on, Iran strikes a U.S. Zionist ship in the Sea of Oman. Trump wants peace over victory with a deal imminent. And Tehran has frozen talks with Washington, according to Iranian media. Welcome back. First up in our news tonight, Niger's Minister of Petroleum, Hamadou Tine, began a working visit to Algeria on Tuesday, leading a high-level delegation of officials and executives from the Ministry of Petroleum and the national oil company Sonidep. The Algerian Ministry of Hydrocarbons said the visit reflected a shared will to strengthen bilateral cooperation and advance major regional projects aimed at boosting economic development and African energy integration. Algerian Minister of State and Minister of Hydrocarbons Mohamed Arqab reaffirmed on Tuesday Algeria's commitment to support Niger in developing its hydrocarbons sector and advancing key infrastructure projects to strengthen energy security and drive economic and social development. He stressed Algeria's determination to deepen African cooperation and build strategic partnerships based on mutual benefit and economic integration in line with the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboun's directives. Minister Arqab also said Algeria was ready through Sonatrach and its training institutions to support Niger in strengthening skills and developing national expertise. Niger's Minister of Petroleum, Hamadou Tine, praised the level of cooperation between both countries and highlighted the leading role of Sonatrach at the African level. He stressed the importance of benefiting from Algerian expertise across the oil and gas sector, particularly in training, technology transfer, and the development of hydrocarbons projects. Algeria's Sonatrach and Niger's national oil company Sonidep signed 3 memoranda of understanding on Tuesday, opening broad prospects for cooperation in strategic sectors. Sonatrach CEO said the agreements would help assess the geological potential and explore hydrocarbon opportunities in Niger, build an integrated industrial partnership to strengthen operational capacities, and establish a joint venture to manufacture oil and gas equipment. Algeria will host the 5th ministerial meeting of the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline steering committee on Wednesday as part of ongoing coordination on this strategic continental project. The Ministry of Hydrocarbons said the meeting will bring together Algerian Minister Mohamed Arqab, Nigeria's Minister of State for Petroleum Resources in charge of gas, and Niger's Minister of Petroleum, Hamadou Tine. It will review progress on the project, including the results of the feasibility study carried out by consulting firm Benspan, and assess the implementation of the roadmap agreed in previous meetings in Niamey, Abuja, and Algiers.
At the very least, there is one thing that must be said, and that is our deep gratitude. I say our deepest gratitude to the presidents of both countries who have wholeheartedly agreed to look at ways of activating and revitalizing this cooperation. Just last week, about 8 days ago, we were here, and today we have returned once again. This reflects the determination of the 2 heads of state to move things forward and ensure progress. The real beneficiaries will be our 2 peoples, the people of Niger and the people of Algeria. More importantly, we must, with an open mind, see how we can turn all of our ideas into reality, so that the Algerian model model becomes a unique model on the continent. This is entirely achievable. All that is needed is political will, and that political will is already there.
Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf discussed a range of African issues with his Rwandan counterpart Olivier Jean-Patrick Nduhungirehe, focusing on developments in the Sahel and the Great Lakes regions. The two sides also reviewed the progress of bilateral relations and cooperation between Algeria and Rwanda across political, security, economic, and humanitarian fields, in line with the decisions taken by the two countries' leaders last June in Algiers. Similarly, Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf held bilateral talks with South Korean Foreign Minister Cho Hyun, according to the Foreign Ministry. The meeting reviewed the different aspects of the strategic partnership between Algeria and the Republic of Korea and explored ways to strengthen it, particularly in economic and technological fields. Both sides also discussed ways to contribute jointly to development of the African-Korean partnership in line with Africa's aspirations and objectives. Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense and Chief of Staff of the Algerian Army, General Said Chenegriha, highlighted the strong momentum in military cooperation between Algeria and Oman under the continued high-level support of both countries' leaderships. The statement came during a reception held for Army General Chenegriha by Omani Minister of the Royal Office Sultan bin Mohammed al Nomani, alongside Chief of Staff of the Sultan's Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Abdullah bin Khamis Raisi, on the third day of his official visit to Oman. Algeria renewed its call for higher contributions to the UN core budget. At a plenary session of the UN Economic and Social Council, Algeria's permanent representative and ECOSOC Vice President Ammar Ben Jama said Africa still requires stronger support in sustainable development, food security, and peace building. He underlined the need to advance comprehensive and sustainable development across the continent through better coordination between regional frameworks and national efforts.
In our continent, we need stronger UN support for SDGs financing, climate resilience, digital transformation, food system, and peace building. Regional arrangement should complement and strengthen country-level support, not replace it. In our continent, we need stronger UN support for SDGs financing, climate resilience, digital transformation, food system, and peace building. Regional arrangement should complement and strengthen country-level support, not replace it.
Moving on to another news story now. At least 22 people were killed and nearly 200 others wounded in Israeli occupation airstrikes on southern Lebanon. The Lebanese Health Ministry said 12 people, including a doctor, were killed and at least 50 others injured in strikes on towns and hospitals in Nabatea and South Lebanon governorates. It also reported 6 deaths in Sidon district, including a woman and 2 children, with 4 wounded. Separately, 4 people were also killed and 127 wounded in a strike on Jabal Amal Hospital in Tyre, including around 30 medical and administrative staff. In Beirut, displaced families from the south continue to live in uncertainty, still hoping for calm despite ongoing strikes and repeated ceasefire violations. Southern Lebanon, including Tyre, remains under sustained bombardment, targeting homes and infrastructure, while fears grow of further escalation amidst slow international response. Marwa Bahli reports.
On the ground and from the skies above, southern Lebanon has become another front for the Zionist occupation to replicate the same strategy of devastation seen in Gaza, turning towns and villages into landscapes of ruin. On Tuesday, the Zionist forces ramped up their attacks and artillery bombardment across the south, killing civilians and issuing additional displacement orders, pushing the total number of displaced people to more than 1 million.
We are not displaced from the south, but the place where we are staying now is under threat. It's under warning, and the threat is ongoing. It could be renewed at any moment. and we might be forced to flee again. Where would we go? We have nowhere to go.
Entire the Zionist aggression reached one of the city's vital lifelines, seconds were all it took for a massive strike to ravage Jebel Amel Hospital and the surrounding buildings, transforming a place of humanitarian care into a landscape of wreckage.
My son is here in an incubator. He was born 13 days ago, and he's been here in the incubator for 9 days. My husband and I heard about the strike and rushed here. The whole hospital was damaged. I ran straight here to see my son, and thank God I found him okay.
What happened is that around 5:30, strikes started. Strikes and the evidence of the Israeli barbarism and targeting people is in front of you. You can see it.
Following US President Donald Trump's call to halt the Zionist aggression and Hezbollah's response, as well as ongoing diplomatic efforts by Beirut, the Lebanese people are divided between optimism and skepticism. Still, the ultimate goal remains unchanged, an end to the war and a safe return home.
Lebanon's UN representative Ahmed Arafat said impunity has encouraged the Zionist occupation to repeat its violations. At an emergency Security Council session, reaffirmed Lebanon's commitment to international resolutions, saying the aim is to obstruct the country's recovery by targeting infrastructure and residential areas, particularly in the south, while exploiting the regional tensions to further escalate the situation.
The intentions of the Israeli government are now as clear as ever. They are evident in the statement of its officials and their calls for the need to expand their aggression and occupy wider Lebanese territories. This is undoubtedly the result of a collective failure to generate solutions, coupled with a lack of accountability, which only fuels impunity.
The United Nations expressed deep concern over Zionist aggression against Lebanon. UN spokesperson Stéphane Dujarric called during a press briefing on Monday evening for respect of the ceasefire and warned against further escalation.
Moving to the news in Lebanon, I can tell you that we are deeply alarmed by the escalation in military activities across southern Lebanon and beyond. Israeli warnings of imminent strikes on Beirut's southern suburbs are deeply concerning and have heightened fear and uncertainty among the population in Lebanon. We reiterate that civilians and civilian infrastructure must not be targeted. We urge all actors to respect the cessation of hostilities and avoid further escalation. We condemn all the loss of civilian lives. There is no alternative to a diplomatic solution to break this cycle of violence and to achieve sustainable stability on both sides of the blue line.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres stressed the need to maintain a UN military presence in Lebanon after the UNIFIL mandate ends. In a report to the Security Council, he outlined options ranging from about 2,000 to 5,500 troops to monitor the ceasefire, support the Lebanese armed forces, and strengthen oversight of the so-called blue line.
Under all proposed options, a uniformed United Nations presence working to facilitate de-escalation, dialogue and coordination, and support for the Lebanese armed forces would be necessary. The UN, as the temporary guardian of the Blue Line, will continue to play a vital role in monitoring the Blue Line impartially and ensuring its preservation.
Moving on to Gaza, 4 Palestinians were killed and others wounded in Zionist airstrikes across the Strip on Tuesday. The Palestinian Information Center says strikes hit several areas, killing 4 people in Zuwaydah, Deir al-Balah and Khan Yunis in central and southern Gaza. It also reported heavy shelling and the demolition of buildings in the Tufah neighborhood, east of Gaza City. The IRGC Navy said it targeted the MSC Sariska, claiming it was linked to the United States and the Zionist entity. In a statement, it said a cruise missile was used in response to U.S. strike on the Iranian vessel Yan Star in the Gulf of Oman, warning it would respond firmly to any further U.S. action in the region. U.S. President Donald Trump said a possible agreement could be reached next week to extend the ceasefire with Iran and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. In comments to ABC News, he said the deal still required finalization, adding that peace with Iran would be preferable to military outcome.
A framework agreement with Iran to extend the ceasefire and reopen the Strait of Hormuz could be reached as early as next week. Some outstanding issues still need to be resolved. A peace agreement with Iran could be even better than a military victory. Such an agreement is no small matter for either Iran or us, but we are getting what we need to obtain.
Iran's Fars news agency said the exchange of messages between Tehran and Washington has been suspended for at least a few days. Citing an informed source, it said the pause is intended to help facilitate a preliminary memorandum of understanding between the two sides, adding that this contradicts Western claims that communications are continuing normally. On a related note, Algeria said mediation is an urgent necessity in resolving conflicts worldwide, particularly in the Middle East. Speaking at the 80th UN General Assembly session, Dahman Yahyaoui, a member of Algeria's UN Permanent Mission, stressed the need to strengthen mediation in the peaceful settlement of disputes, calling it a key tool to prevent conflicts and end violence.
Our world is witnessing multiple crises that are worsening simultaneously while trust among states continues to erode increasingly. At the same time, the United Nations is undergoing unprecedented tests overall, as well as the entire multilateral system. In this context, mediation is no longer merely an option. It has become an urgent necessity. Mediation remains one of the most effective tools for preventing conflicts, putting an end to violence, and avoiding humanitarian tragedies. Today, given the increase in the outbreak of conflicts and their ever more complex nature, particularly in the Middle East and Africa, allow me to.
The Algerian diplomat said Algeria's role in mediation is not recent, but a long-standing foreign policy choice grounded in international legitimacy.
Algeria's engagement in mediation efforts is not a matter of circumstance. Much rather, it is a constant, deeply rooted and established choice in its foreign policy, grounded in the principles of international legitimacy. Algeria has played important roles in the peaceful settlement of numerous international and regional disputes. Algeria has supported dialogue during periods of heightened tension, and we've also contributed to historic peace processes within our region and beyond.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa called for granting sovereignty and self-determination rights to more people, especially the Palestinian and the Sahrawi peoples. In an address to the National Assembly in Cape Town on Monday, Ramaphosa said his country would keep taking part in diplomatic efforts to support peace processes in war-torn regions, including Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo and Sudan. South Africa's economic freedom fighters, the EFF, reaffirmed their unconditional support for the Sahrawi people and their struggle for independence. At an Africa Day event, EFF leader called for an end to the occupation of Western Sahara, referring to it as Africa's last colony. He also condemned Morocco's policies, accusing it of ignoring international resolutions. Spanish police have dismantled the drug trafficking network using advanced methods to smuggle drugs from Morocco into Europe. 8 people were arrested so far, and authorities seized significant high-tech equipment, including a large drone. Zafar Janez has the story this time.
The latest seizure is significant. 40 kilograms of cannabis resin, 2 kilograms of cocaine, 2 modified vehicles, and a range of advanced technological equipment, all recovered by Spanish police. Investigators had been tracking the network since 2025. The operation culminated in 5 simultaneous raids stretching from the Andalusian coast to the Basque Country, leading to the arrest of 8 suspects. This is no longer traditional drug trafficking. Criminal networks have taken their operations to a new level. To move drugs into Europe, they are no longer relying solely on land or sea routes. They are increasingly using the air. At the heart of the case is a highly sophisticated drone. With a 4-meter wingspan and 4 engines, the fixed-wings aircraft can fly at speeds exceeding 100 kilometers per hour. It is capable of crossing the Strait of Gibraltar from Morocco in just minutes, carrying up to 20 kilograms of drugs on a single trip. Bringing down this airborne operation required months of meticulous work. Spanish investigators tracked GPS signals, monitored encrypted communications, and kept watch over remote launch sites. It was a highly targeted surveillance effort aimed at exposing a group of criminals who believed they had found a smuggling route beyond the reach of conventional detection systems. The network has now been dismantled, but authorities say the case highlights a growing trend. As border controls become tighter and police operations more effective, drug traffickers are increasingly turning to advanced technology to evade detection and keep their illicit trade moving.
A Sudanese human rights group said 18 people, mostly young men, were killed when drones struck 2 civilian vehicles in North Kordofan state. The emergency lawyers group said the vehicles carrying merchants were hit while traveling from Badr to the Armel area, destroying both vehicles. It added that all those on board were killed, including 2 children under the age of 17. Moving on to Eastern Europe now, Ukrainian authorities said at least 22 people were killed and nearly 100 wounded in a large-scale Russian drone and missile attack on several cities, including Kiev and Dnipro. In Dnipro, the regional governor reported 17 deaths and around 80 injured following strikes on the city and surrounding areas. In Kiev, officials said at least 5 people were killed and 58 others wounded after heavy attacks on Monday evening. In Kharkiv, authorities reported 10 injured people from drone and missile attacks. Russia's defense ministry said it carried out a large-scale strike on Ukrainian defense industry targets using hypersonic missiles, and claiming all designated facilities were hit. The Algerian national football team holds its final training session Tuesday evening at the Feyenoord Stadium in Rotterdam. That's ahead of Wednesday's friendly against the Netherlands. The match is part of both teams' preparations for the 23rd World Cup. The team's plane landed at the Hague International Airport in Rotterdam Monday night at 7:45 p.m. Algerian time. And that's all for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great night.